Okay, let me just turn it up.
Hello, everyone. Is there anyone
Hi.
in here?
Oh, I think someone maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll just give it a minute for people to shuffle in.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us today. We're so excited. Should I just hold this up?
Sure.
Can I put it here?
I don't think so.
Let's see. Is anyone joining?
Anyone's in yet. We'll just wait and give it a few minutes. Oh, we have one person watching.
Oh, nice. Yay. Thank you for joining.
If you're watching, we're just going to give it a few minutes for people to join the live and then we'll start.
Yep. Thank you all for joining. We will start in just a minute.
In the meantime, enjoy our nice diagram.
Yeah, we designed it ourselves. Can everyone hear us okay? Is the volume good? Let's see.
Yeah, let us know if the volume is okay.
Yeah. Oh. One person. Can you click on it? Can you see who's here? Oh, interesting.
All right.
Thank you all for joining. Alrighty, let's
About
get
time.
started.
Hello. Hello, everyone that is watching. So welcome to our live from the lab. My name is Natalia.
And I'm Jeannie, and we are the Marine Lab Research Assistants here at Point Blue Conservation Science. At Point Blue, our core mission is dedicated to the protection and conservation of birds, other wildlife, and ecosystems, achieved through dedicated scientific research, strong partnerships, and active outreach.
Thanks for we worked hard on that cormorant picture.
Yes.
So here in the Marine Lab, we study marine ecosystems and food chains. So our main focus is analyzing the diets of marine seabirds. And today we're going to be discussing the diet and ecology of the Brandts cormorant. It's a little Brandts cormorant figurine that one of our volunteers made us. So today we're going to be learning about three main topics. So we're going to be talking about the ecological importance of the Brandts cormorant and why we should care about their success. We're going to be talking about what Brandts cormorants eat and the ecological importance of their prey. And also we're going to talk about bird pellets, what they are, what information we can extract from them, and also how we process them here in the lab. So I will hand it over to Jeannie.
Alrighty, so off the coast of Northern California, amidst the rugged beauty of the Farallon Islands, thrives a remarkable bird called the Brandts cormorant. So these sleek black seabirds with their bright turquoise eyes, and they have these little white whiskers during breeding season, are more than just the scenic beauty, they play a crucial role in the marine ecosystem. And they are actually expert divers. So can anyone guess how deep they dive? Do you think they dive up to 80 feet, 100 feet, 300 feet, or even 400 feet? So put your guesses in the comments below. They normally stay at around 40 feet, but they can dive much deeper than that. So let us know what you think, how deep they can dive. And if you were thinking around 300 feet, you are correct. So normally they stay at 40 feet, but they can dive up to 300 feet. And they live on these islands in large numbers during their breeding season from spring to fall, covering the rocky cliffs of the Farallon Islands. And during their time on the Farallon Islands, Brandts cormorants can provide valuable information about the abundance and health of fish populations in the surrounding waters. And they do so by what they feed on. So if these birds are diving into the ocean, can anyone take a wild guess about what they might be eating in the ocean? They are eating fish mostly, and sometimes squid. And the type of fish that they eat depends on how much energy they have to exert to hunt and eat that fish. So their primary fish species that they eat are northern anchovy and rockfish, because those are in open surface waters and close to the Farallon Islands rocky shores. While they may have to dive deeper to prey on squid and even sand dab flatfish that live on the ocean floor among the sand. And so today we will go in detail about these most common prey species, from most energy efficient to least energy efficient. And Natalia will start us off.
Right, so we are first going to be talking about the northern anchovy. So this is a small pelagic species, which means that they live in open waters, like Jeannie said. So they're not only a major prey species for the cormorants, but they are also significant for the commercial fishing industry and the marine food web. So they serve as a primary food source for a variety of marine predators like other seabirds, and also large fish like salmon and tuna, and also marine mammals like the sea lions, like we talked about in our last live. So for Brandts cormorants, anchovies contain a lot of fat, which provides the necessary calories for their survival and reproductive success. So the abundance and health of anchovy populations directly impacts the breeding and foraging success of the Brandts cormorants. And the data that we collect in the lab has actually shown that Brandts cormorants' reproductive success is higher in years when they consume lots of these fatty, nutritious anchovies. Anchovies also play a role in nutrient cycling. Does anyone know what nutrient cycling is? You can think it, or you can let us know in the comments. Kind of complicated, but also not super complicated. So it's a process by which nutrients are moved and transformed within and between ecosystems, which helps support the growth and survival of organisms at different trophic levels. So basically, when a Brandts cormorants feeds on fish like the northern anchovies, they assimilate the nutrients from their prey, and these nutrients are then transported to their nesting sites off of cliffs and islands like the Farallon Islands, where their guano or bird droppings enriches the soil with nitrogen and phosphorus and other essential elements. So this nutrient input can stimulate plant growth and support a diverse array of terrestrial organisms, and that helps enhance the productivity and biodiversity of our coastal ecosystems. For humans, seabird poop or seabird guano is also can be a fertilizer and a commercially important product in some economies. So basically, the northern anchovy populations are indicators of ocean health, and they can reflect changes in the marine environment, which makes their conservation really important for maintaining the ecological balance of Northern California's coastal waters. So that is the anchovy. Yay, anchovies, yes. We're gonna move on to our next prey species, so I'm gonna hand it over to Jeannie.
Alrighty, so next up we have the rockfish, and this is actually a group of species because rockfish contribute to California waters with their contribution to biodiversity. So there are actually over 109 species of rockfish globally. And so can anyone guess how many of those 109 rockfish species are here in California? Do you think there's 60 species, 80, or even 100 species in California waters? So put your guesses in the comments below if you think there are 60, 80, or 100 of those rockfish in California. Alrighty, so if you guess 60, you are right. So there are about 60 species in California of rockfish, and they inhabit diverse habitats from rocky bottoms to deep sea environments. And they are full of vibrant and colors and patterns, as you can see here. They come in many shapes and sizes. They serve both as predators and prey for various marine mammals, including seals, sea lions, and seabirds, just like the Brandts cormorant. Additionally, rockfish are valuable for both commercial and recreational fishing, contributing to the local economy. Unlike anchovies, who are broadcast spawners, rockfish give birth to live young. And so as juveniles, rockfish spend their time in the open pelagic waters, which is where Brandts cormorants are eating them. Their long lifespan and sensitivity to environmental changes makes them a vital indicator species for monitoring ecosystem health. And some scientists even recommend the big old fat fecund female fish hypothesis, which says that protecting the larger female rockfish who produce more young will lead to a more successful recovery of rockfish species. So that's why if you ever see a female rockfish and you're out fishing, usually you put it back so that they can keep reproducing and can give birth to more babies. So yeah, and now I'm gonna hand it back to Natalia, and she's gonna tell us about our next species.
Small but mighty fish. Oh, yeah. Okay. So our next species we're gonna talk about is squid. So this is another favorite valuable forage species in the marine food web. These guys are cephalopods. Does anyone know what a cephalopod is? Let me know in the comments. You might have learned it in your high school biology class. So basically, cephalopods are a class or group of mollusks, and it also includes octopus and cuttlefish. So those species are all closely related. And so these guys are a vital link in the food chain, and they act as both predators and prey. So the species that's most common in our Brandts cormorants pellets are the market squid. And these squid grow pretty quickly. They can reach about 1 foot in length. And they have a short lifespan, about only 6 to 9 months. And then they reproduce also right before they die. So they spend most of their time in the water column and can be found in waters over 2,000 feet below the surface, which is much deeper than the cormorants can dive, as we learned. So mollusca, yes, mollusks. Additionally, juvenile squid can eat a lot of krill, and krill are closely connected to changes in ocean productivity. So this makes squid populations sensitive to environmental changes and important indicators of ocean health. And currently there's actually no population estimates for the market squid in California. So understanding the abundance of market squid and how much marine life consume them is pretty crucial for the sustainable fisheries management and also for the survival of the species. And before we move on to the next species, I just want to point out this little black dot in the center of all the squid arms. That is where the squid beak is, and the beak is the mouth part of the squid. So I have a close-up here. So that's a close-up of what the beak looks like, and so just remember this because we're going to talk about it a little bit later. And back to Jeannie.
Alrighty, so our last fish that we are going to be talking about are sand dabs. So these sand dabs are fairly small flatfish that Brandts cormorants rely on when their other prey species are less abundant. Sand dabs are fished by humans recreationally, and while not usually the target of commercial fisheries in California, they are caught in trawls of other flatfish species. And there are two species of sand dabs that we find most frequently in the cormorant diet. There's the Pacific sand dab and the speckled sand dab, and so they are actually pictured right down here. So we have our speckled sand dab and our Pacific sand dab, and they usually reach about 6.5 inches for speckled sand dabs, and Pacific sand dabs reach up to 16 inches, so they are fairly small, can easily fit in a cormorant's throat. So given their size, can anyone guess what they might feed on? Put your comments, your guesses in the comments below about what you think these small fish might feed on in the sandy bottoms. So if you guessed maybe like small fish, crustaceans, or even small cephalopods, you are correct. And like all flatfish, young sand dabs have one eye on each side of their head. And as they grow and develop, one eye will actually migrate to the other side of their head. So in this picture here, you can see their eye on this side, and this one is actually in the process of moving its eye over to its side. So right now, its eye is like sort of on the top of its head, and it will eventually join this side, which is pretty crazy. And so additionally, sand dabs are prey for a variety of predators, including other fish, seabirds, and marine mammals. Alrighty, so just to recap, our four main species that we find in Brandts cormorants. So we have this nice little diagram here. So we have our cormorant sitting on the rocky Farallon Islands, and so they eat a variety of northern anchovy, which is their top choice. And if their northern anchovy aren't around, then they will feast on rockfish, and then maybe a few squid here and there. And then if those prey aren't available, they will resort to diving deep and using a lot of energy to get to sand dabs on the ocean floor. So here is our little diagram. And now I will hand it back to Natalia.
Small, yes. Flatfish are wild. Yeah, they are. Yeah, okay, so, but how do we know what Brandts cormorants eat? Well, can you guys guess what this might be? A little ball of dirt, maybe? Well, this is a Brandts cormorant pellet. Oh, the text appears backwards. Oh, sorry. I guess the text is backwards. We'll flip the camera around when we look at the microscope. But yeah, so basically a bird pellet is a small regurgitated mass that is composed of indigestible parts like bones, fur, feather, exoskeletons that a lot of birds, like the Brandts cormorant, produce as part of their digestive system, and you can see some feathers in this one. So I have a little, sorry, the words are going to be backwards, but I'll just tell you. So this is a digestive system of a bird. So they will swallow their prey whole, and their digestive system extracts the nutrients while separating the indigestible parts. So those parts are then compacted into a pellet within the gizzard, which is right here, and then they eventually regurgitate it. So the production of pellets is a natural mechanism that allows these birds to efficiently dispose of the indigestible remains of prey. and it helps maintain their digestive system and just enables them to continue feeding effectively. So here in the Marine Lab, we dissect Brandts Cormorants pellets and we collect data on what these birds have been eating. I'm going to hand it over to Jeannie again.
Yes. And so, but how do we know what they have been eating by dissecting pellets? So some of you might be reflecting back to even your own experience if you ever dissected an owl pellet in your science classes during school. And you may have found like small rodent bones or like mice fur or something like that. And so that is essentially what we're doing here in the lab. So we find many hard structures and bony parts of random fish in our cormorant pellets, but what we do is actually the fish ear bones, which are called otoliths. Those are different sizes and shapes for each fish species. So we actually extract the otoliths or the ear bones from our pellet samples, and we use that to identify what fish the cormorants are eating. And we do the same for the cephalopod beaks that Natalia showed us earlier. And so with the cephalopod beaks or their mouth parts, we are able to see what species of squid or even octopus they might be eating. And so we use that to get the most information out of them. And now we will move on to the microscope portion. And please feel free to ask any questions while we get our camera set up. Alrighty. So we are going to get you guys in here.
Yeah, do you guys have any questions for us? Anything else that we do in the lab? Have you ever seen otoliths before?
Yes.
Or beaks before? Did you even know that squids had beaks? That was news to me when I learned it.
Yeah, I did not know that. Alright. Just getting screwed in there.
Alright.
Okay.
All set? Okay. Alright. Awesome. Okay, so what we are looking at is some otoliths. Otoliths make great earrings. Oh, that's an idea. Okay, so yeah, so like we said before, an otoliths are a fish's inner ear bone. So each fish has one main otolith on either side of their head, just like we have one ear on either side of our head. And these structures are used to collect a multitude of information about the fish it came from. But here in the lab, we collect data about the species of fish, the number of fish in a pellet, and the size of the fish. So let's do a little bit of otolith anatomy. So these are northern anchovy otoliths. And this top part right here, that's called the rostrum. And then this bottom part right here is called the anterostrum. And it has kind of like a divot in the middle, like a long line. And that is called the sulcus. And the sulcus can only be seen on one side of the otolith. So if I flip this over, did it flip? I don't think it did. Yeah, if I flip it over, the sulcus is not there. And there's actually kind of like a bump on the other side. So I'm gonna reflip it. Moving things is hard. Okay, so there we go. So knowing these features on an otolith is important to us in the lab because it can help us identify what side of the head the otolith came from, and that helps us determine how many fish are reflected in each pellet. So the way we side an otolith is to look at which way the rostrum is facing. So we make sure that the sulcus side is up. So the sulcus is up, we can see the sulcus. And we make sure the rostrum is at the top, and then whichever way the rostrum is facing is going to be that side that the otolith came from. So this one is a right otolith, the rostrum is facing the right. And then these two at the top are left otoliths, so you can see the rostrums are facing left. And so that's basically how we do it. So to determine the number of fish in a pellet, we take the count of the side that has the most otoliths. So as you can see here, we have 4 left otoliths, and then we have 5 right otoliths. So if this were all the otoliths in my sample, I would say that there were 5 fish, right? Yeah. So as I mentioned before, these are northern anchovy otoliths. And now I'm going to show you some different species, because different species of otoliths look different. So these, if you can see, are rockfish otoliths. They're a bit smaller. I think that the fish were probably a little bit smaller than those anchovies, but the size of the otoliths can vary by species as well, and not just the size of the fish. So as you can see, these guys are, they're kind of rounder, more oval shaped. They have like a little bit of scalloping around the edges, but their sulcus is also pretty straight, like the northern anchovy. If we go back to the northern anchovy, they're kind of like flat. Their sulcus is straight, but they do have these little spikes at the top. So it just looks a bit different. To give you a little bit more comparison, I'm going to take you over. These are some sand dab otoliths. So like we mentioned before, we get a few different species of sand dabs in our pellets. But as you can see, these are really different. They're just kind of a whole another ball game. They have an overall round shape to them, and they don't really have a rostrum like the anchovy or rockfish otoliths. So siding these is quite a bit more challenging. They just don't have those prominent structures that make it easier to side them. But we do our best here in the lab, and we have lots of resources to help us out. And something I do want to just mention about these samples when we're dealing with otoliths is that they have gone through the digestive system of the cormorant. So this means that they often have different levels of erosion. So that can make it quite a bit more challenging to ID them and side them. So for example, you can see the spikes on the tops of these otoliths, these anchovy otoliths. But most of the other ones don't have the spikes, and even this one looks very eroded. It's just kind of rounded out and doesn't have, its structures are kind of a little bit eroded away. So that makes a big difference to us. Because the last piece of information that, yes, the sand dabs are challenging. Yeah, so the last piece of information that we do gather from otoliths is their measurements. So we're only going to measure the otoliths that have a minimum amount of erosion, so that we're recording the most accurate data possible. And we use a formula to generate the length of the fish based on the otolith measurement. And so that way we can get a fish estimation measurement without ever having looked at the whole fish. So that is our otoliths. We know them, we love them. Now I'm going to hand it over to Jeannie for the next structures that we look at.
Alrighty. So, thank you, Natalia, for showing us about all the fish otoliths. So the other things we look for are the squid beaks. Oh. Okay.
Are there any difficulties? Can you guys hear us and see us okay?
Yeah.
Oh, Ruth, that's my mom.
Oh.
Do we measure the length or width? We measure the length and the width.
Yes.
Thanks for asking.
Alrighty. Can everyone hear us and see us okay? So we have, okay, great. Thank you, Nina. So we have squid beaks here. So these are the mouth parts. So just like how humans and most animals have a top and bottom jaw, squids, since they don't have bones, they have squid beaks. So this is sort of like their top jaw, and this bottom part down here is like their bottom jaw. And so this top beak, this black part, this black strip, is actually called the rostrum, and we measured the length of that because we also have a proportion for squid to just get an idea of how big the squid that they are eating. And then this orange/brown part that's sticking out and up, this is actually the hood of the squid beak. And then we have this clear part down here. And so this clear part is actually attached to inside the squid's tissue and muscles so that it can move around. And so this clear part is called the lateral wall. And so it is actually inside the squid and not visible on the outside. So if you look at a squid, you'll mostly just see the rostrum part and maybe a little bit of the hood. And so we measure the length from the tip of the beak to the end of the black part for the length, and then we sometimes flip it over to measure the width as well. And so we will hold it up like this under the microscope and sort of use our ruler to measure the width. But that is our top beak. And then now if we move down here, let me just pull out our bottom beak. So this is our bottom beak. And so as you can see, it's a little less sharp than the top beak, but it is still used to break up the prey of whatever the squid is eating. And so just like how it had black around the top beak, this other black piece is also the rostrum of the bottom beak. And if we turn it around, you might be able to see the hood of the beak as well. They are very flimsy. So yeah, so right here is the hood of the bottom beak. I don't know if you can see that line. And then just like how the clear part in the lateral wall of the top beak is inside of the squid, same with the bottom beak. So this whole clearish structure, it may have been just discolored from the Brandts cormorant sample, but this whole piece, this whole clear piece is part of the lateral wall and is inside. And then the bottom beak also has these wings sticking out. And so these wings just also attach to muscles to help it move around. And so yeah, so we just measure the top and bottom beaks to just see what the squids are. And then we also just look because the rostrums are different shapes for different squid species. And that concludes our microscope portion. So we will take you guys back to our desk now, and feel free to ask any questions you may have about the structures that we extract from the pellets. And then bear with us just a moment. Hello. So now we are back, and you have seen all our secrets about Brandts cormorant pellets. And we hope you had fun nerding out with us and learning about the diet and ecology of Brandts cormorants. And so as you have learned today, these birds are indicators of marine ecosystem health. Their diet primarily consists of small fish and cephalopods like anchovies, rockfish, sand dabs, and market squid. Can you all tell what species of squid? That would be cool. Oh yes, that squid was a market squid that is the most common one that we find. They're called the California market squid, and yeah, we rarely find other species of squid. But yeah, thank you for asking, Nina. And so the changes we see in their diet from year to year may indicate changes in the populations of these species. And so the research in this lab actually found that when northern anchovy populations declined in the late 2000s, this actually led to the cormorants on the Farallon Islands to switch to eating to rockfish and then sand dabs. And we were actually able to make a correlation between their diet of switching to less nutritious fish like the sand dabs or using more energy, and that actually declined their breeding and population success on the island. So it is very important for us to document these changes and to collect this data because having northern anchovy in their diet actually leads to greater breeding success for the seabird species. And so yeah, and also these forage species are crucial for other marine predators, and knowing how much prey are needed by cormorants and other marine predators will help us make better fisheries management decisions. And taking a more ecosystem-based approach to fisheries management will ensure enough fish for people and wildlife, and this will help fisheries remain sustainable for years to come. And studying these aspects is vital for assessing the health and sustainability of marine ecosystems.
Yeah. Question. I may have missed this. Is the clear part of the beak hard, or is it soft or cartilaginous? The clear part of the beak is it's hard. It's almost like plasticky. Yeah, Meredith answered.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna conclude. So the diet of the Brandts cormorant is more than just a list of species. It's a narrative of ecological balance and interdependence. A story where every creature plays a role and every role matters. So in the dance of nature, every species, including the Brandts cormorant, plays a crucial part. And protecting these birds means safeguarding an entire ecosystem, a task that begins with understanding and appreciating the simple yet profound act of a bird catching its fish. So if you guys have any more questions, let us know. Thank you so much for everyone who dropped in to visit us today. We hope that you learned something new, and we hope that you had fun and were inspired by what you saw. If you want to get more involved with what we do here at Point Blue or make a donation, please make sure to visit our website, pointblue.org, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, if you want to meet us in person, plus Meredith, to talk more about what we do, come and see us at the Exploratorium in San Francisco on Thursday, April 4th. And thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Thank you
guys so
guys.
much for joining. Are there any other questions in the comments?
Yeah.
Yes. Alrighty. Thank you guys.
Bye, everyone.